Welcome to Unwise Girls, a Percy Jackson reread podcast. I am one of your hosts, Janie, and this is your other host, Jacqueline.
And I'm Jacqueline. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful podcast day. Today, I hope you enjoy our little in-flight movie. We're going to be watching the movie of the next few chapters, but there's not actually a movie. We're not actually watching a movie, so don't get confused with us watching the actual movie.
Are you okay? Did you get confused about what we're doing this week? We're not on the movie yet.
No, we're going to be doing the movie after we're done with the chapters, but in a way, these are some very cinematic chapters. Kind of?
They are?
Nah,
I'm really confused.
I don't know. Should I do my summaries?
Yeah, go for it. Do we want to jump right into summaries? Do we have any Percy Jackson related news?
Not that I know of. I mean, there have been some listicles like 10 things we want to see the new Percy Jackson series on or whatever, but I don't. Come on, who cares?
Yeah, I just very professionally typed Percy Jackson into the DuckDuckGo news tab in the middle of recording, and it's literally just 5 things we'd like to see from the Disney Plus series.
Let a Yeah, we got some dense chapters this week, so I will jump right into it.
Hell yeah.
Chapter 17. We shop for waterbeds. After using their Lotus cards to take an express trip to Santa Monica and discussing their growing doubts about whether or not Hades is really the culprit who stole the Master Vault, the gang arrives at the beach and, when Percy walks into the Pacific, he is guided by a shark to the same spirit he spoke to in the Mississippi, who gives him 3 magical, emergency use pearls before leaving. They wander around Hollywood, dodge the cops, and escape some muggers by running into Krusty's waterbed palace to hide. The proprietor shows them around, but when he traps Annabeth and Grover, they realize Krusty's actually the giant Procrustes, who stretches travelers' bodies to meet the dimensions of his beds. Percy tricks Krusty onto a bed, uses the same command Krusty used earlier to trap him, and then beheads him. Afterwards, they find a pamphlet with the Underworld's address on it, just 1 block away. Chapter 18. Annabeth Does Obedience School. The gang arrive at DOA recording studios, where they encounter Charon, the Italian suit-wearing ferryman of the dead. After tempting him with drachmas and the possibility of a pay-raise negotiation with Hades, he takes them across the polluted river Styx, and they arrive at the entrance of the underworld. After talking a bit about the judges of the dead, how they send spirits to different regions of the underworld, depending on what they did in life, they encounter Cerberus, and Annabeth uses a red rubber ball she got from the Waterland Park to get Cerberus to fetch, sit, and stay, while they run through the now unguarded entrance. Chapter 19. We find out the truth. Sort of. Our heroes travel through the underworld, absorbing its various regions. The fields of Asphodel, the fields of punishment, Elysium, and the Isles of the Blessed, where heroes reside. Eventually, they arrive at Hades' palace, which is when Grover's flying sneakers suddenly start flying on their own and nearly send him plummeting into the deepest pits of the underworld, Tartarus, which is what Percy's been dreaming of. Grover manages to kick the shoes off, and the gang escape before the voice in the pit can suck them in. They get into Hades' palace, and he's pissed at them for coming there. He thinks Percy stole Hades' Helm of Darkness and used it to take the bolt. He's threatening to unleash the dead back in the world, and Percy has a realization, unzips the backpack he got from Ares, and finds that he really does have the Master Bolt. Hades reveals that he's been holding Percy's mom captive, and Percy knows they have to get out of there so they can get to Olympus, but they only have 3 pearls. Not enough to get out of there while still bringing his mom. Grover and Annabeth both offer to stay behind, but he can't bring himself to sacrifice his friends. He promises his mom he'll come back for her, uses the pearls to take the gang back up to Santa Monica Bay, and they see, in the distance, Los Angeles ravaged by earthquakes on the day of the solstice. So what'd you think of the chapters this week?
I really enjoyed these. There's just like a lot of diverse things that I really like about them. What about you? What were your thoughts on them?
I like too. We're getting into the climax of the story, kind of.
Mhm.
And I feel like this is a pretty fair build up, and we're in like the last 6 chapters region.
Yeah.
This is an appropriate place for the story to like kind of push all the side stuff to the side and, start getting down to like the brass tacks of it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. We're getting a lot of like arcs that have run throughout most of this book getting like resolved or tied up in these set chapters.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like take the first chapter, which is when they encounter Procrustes or Procrustes, I'm not sure.
Krusty the Clown.
When they encounter Krusty. This is maybe my favorite like encounter so far.
It's so like creative and funny as like an adaptation of that story.
It really is. Plus, like, I don't know, it's a really unexpected villain, right? We've got
Yeah.
like Medusa. Like, okay, yeah, of course Medusa's gonna be in there. Who was it?
Knuckles the
Scylla?
Echidna.
Oh, the Echidna. And with this one, you just get like this random like I'm a giant who Theseus killed. And like that's good to like that's really good. Especially since this is like the first time Percy's really had to do it all on his own.
Yeah. I think like the way that Percy confronts his problems in these chapters is really interesting. We get two separate occasions where he like talks his way out of a confrontation with someone a lot more powerful than him. It's good continuity with the fact that Echidna kicked the absolute shit out of him.
Yeah, it's really good that we see Percy as like he's maybe like okay at fighting. He's a lot better when he has water splashed on him, but he's showing his like strengths now. He's a wily kid. And that's really
Yeah,
it's cool that we've gotten to sort of establish that because like in the Procrustes chapter, he basically like on the fly invents this plan of like getting Procrustes talking and like getting him to like lay down on his own bed. It's very funny, but it's also very like indicative of Percy's character.
yeah, like again, it's a really funny scene and it's a funny interaction, but also like yeah, Percy engaged with this guy on like a level that he wanted to talk on, so of course he's gonna like go along with whatever Percy is saying. It shows
Absolutely.
that Percy is like actually pretty smart and fairly perceptive.
And that kind of follows with what we know of Percy as a character because he is somebody who's like pushed around by adults all the time. He's got this abusive stepdad, and I assume that he interacts with him in much the same way, which is like appeasing him and then playing on his own field to sort of be able to safely interact there.
Yeah, I hadn't actually thought of that, but that's a really good point. That like Percy will never get has never gotten anywhere in life before by like kicking back. He has to be a lot more clever about it than that.
Yeah, and I think what made me love this scene was because I was terrified of it as a kid. This was like really
Hmm.
scary to me. This is like the kind of like I guess body horror that like kids like get really embroiled. Like imagine you're just like somebody is just like stretching your body until you're like a foot taller. That's terrifying.
I wasn't worried about that as a kid. I was really tall for my age, so I was worried about getting strapped to the bed and getting my limbs cut off.
That's I don't know. I'm not sure which is scarier,
I
but
think getting cut apart.
I don't know. I'm imagining like my ligaments just like being stretched like putty and like slowly tearing. Like they'll never work the same again, even if I do survive. It's a much slower death, it feels like.
Yeah, I guess so.
But what this scene became like a favorite for me when Percy snaps his fingers, Krusty gets tied to the bed, and Percy is just like so decisive in what he does. Yeah,
Percy goes on a complete no mercy run here.
he legitimately like he delivers like a one-liner in his head. He's like he's
No, he
like
says it out loud.
right, right, because he says what does he say?
He says, a few simple adjustments. I think I'll start with the top and then beheads him.
God. And in his head, he's saying like we're I guess it's not in his head, but like the writing is really good here because it's just like I swung the sword. Krusty stopped making offers.
Yeah, that's just really good.
Yeah, I am enraptured. Like, this is how you elegantly do combat in fiction to me.
Yeah, that's been like really strong like throughout this entire book.
Absolutely. Like, Percy isn't just like, he's not just like head to head brawling with people. He and the others being put into situations where they have to think of clever and inventive ways to navigate without like people being hurt. There's always like personal stakes, usually at least.
Yeah.
And that makes this all this combat a lot more like gripping.
Yeah, it's not just like the writer listing sword moves they found on Wikipedia.
Yeah, and believe me, I love a good sword move, but like sometimes I just want to hear about how Percy just like lops the guy's head off.
Yeah. Although I think this does lend some credence to the otherwise completely insane news report from earlier in this chapter, where what does it say? Is Percy Jackson a delinquent, a terrorist, or perhaps the brainwashed victim of a frightening new cult? He did try to stab a kid earlier, and then he did behead this guy, so they might be onto something.
Yeah, when I didn't mention it in the summary, but when Percy gets mugged, they just like he just swings his sword at them. And like they're fine because it just passes right through them and they like probably can't see it because like it's like Greek bronze or whatever. So it doesn't hurt them. But it's like, Percy, what are you doing? Also, we've got Gabe on TV again, right? And
Yeah.
he's being interviewed by Barbara Walters.
I don't know who that is.
She's like a really like big like
Because I feel like in the localized version they should change it to like Kay Burley or something. Just like one of those universally hated news anchors.
she's like a really like she was like the interview person who like always did like the really popular like TV news interviewer. Do you know Nancy Grace?
Nope.
Nancy Grace was a it's not worth it. Okay. I don't
So what
know.
you're saying is that Barbara Walters is mid 2000s Shane Dawson.
Oh my god. Moving on.
Is Sugar a prostitute?
Excuse me?
It, I just
Who?
when Uncle Gabe is whatever his name is on TV, he
Right.
said, "Honest Miss Walters, if it wasn't for Sugar here, my grief counselor, I'd be a wreck."
I
And
like to think
apparently she's like a young blonde lady.
I mean, I think the two readings of it are like this is Gabe's new like side piece or whatever, his new girlfriend now that Percy's mom is in Hades.
Yeah.
Um, or else like my or like the alternative reading of it is that like everybody like this is someone who is like really into like ugly bastard hentai with
I
and she's
can't
just like
believe that Percy Jackson was the first NTR doujin I ever read.
God, I hate it. I hate saying those words. But that's all I can think of when I like hear and see Gabe.
I think that
Uh,
says more about you than it does about the book,
I don't think
honestly.
that's. I think this is textual. Uh, early. So we kind of skipped to the end of the chapter, but earlier on, they're in a taxi on the way there,
Hmm.
and they have I would say like a pretty blunt conversation about like the whole mystery of the book. What did you think about that?
I thought it was like textbook. You know that old aphorism that's like you film a scene of people talking at a table for 5 minutes, and it's just the audience will probably sleep through that. But if you tell the audience there's a bomb under the table and then film the scene, they'll be like enraptured the whole time. Like we
Yeah,
have the one critical piece of information that all the characters are missing, and I think that makes this like really gripping as like
this
tension building.
That's really true because, like, there's a little bit of dramatic irony in there,
Hmm.
and it makes for a really like. I think this is like the dividing line between like trusting the reader versus building up like a considerate mystery. Like on one
Hmm.
hand, like Rick didn't have to write in like them talking about like is Hades really like I don't know because and then like have them like list all their hints and stuff. Like he didn't have to do that. He could just like scatter in hints throughout and then at the end reveal the twist, right?
Hmm.
I don't know, neither is really like an objectively worse choice. But I think, but like this is a choice that he made here.
I
Uh,
think it's possibly like it's better to do it this way in a kid's book where like the hints have been dropped very obviously throughout the book. Like people like whenever it comes up, it's like addressed in a conversation. And I think this is a good way of addressing the fact that the hints are so obvious by having the characters actually like talk it through, rather than making them seem kind of dumb by ignoring it.
yeah, I people don't like mysteries where their characters are just like, ah, I don't really care. Like it's good that
Yeah.
they're invested in it.
I think this kind of plays into another thing that I really liked across these chapters. To go on a slight tangent, I've been like rewatching The Expanse lately.
Oh yeah?
And one of the things that I really enjoy about that show is, especially early on, something will happen, and then we cut to all the different like factions and people in the solar system, and what their like conclusion about what happened was. And they're always like different conclusions, and they're almost always wrong. But you can always
Yeah.
see and understand how the characters came to that conclusion based on the information and biases they have. And I think that's something Rick does here like really well. Like you completely understand why everyone at Camp Half-Blood assumes that Hades took the lightning bolt. And likewise, when we get to Hades later on, you absolutely can see how he's put together that actually this is all Poseidon's fault. It's really good attention to detail to make sure that every character has a consistent motivation and worldview.
Extremely. It's good writing. Rick,
Exactly.
good writing.
I'm looking at the stuff we have of like different historical figures in Hades, and I think there is definitely some like thinking emoji stuff in here.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about we go to the when they're in the underworld, they they talk about Annabeth is like the judges of the dead. Like there are three of them at a time. They rotate and and they're like here to decide where your eternal soul goes, basically.
Hmm.
And the people she names are
Oh, I've
they,
got it. It's King Minos, Thomas Jefferson, and Shakespeare.
this is maybe the funniest trio of people who I would never want judging my soul.
Absolutely not.
Like, okay, King Minos, I understand.
It's an
He's
ancient Greek figure. It's whatever. They're a freebie. You can have one of those.
yeah, and he's like I think like in the myths or whatever, it was like the judges of the dead were like him and his brothers. And
Okay.
so it makes sense that he's on there. Then we got Thomas Jefferson.
Are you fucking kidding me,
Why
Rick?
is Thomas like I mean, it kind of almost feels like a joke. I don't it's probably not, but it feels like one of those jokes that's like get it because he's like a really bad person but he's like judging people's eternal souls.
Well, no, but like Shakespeare is not like Shakespeare is hated by English students like me the world over, but nobody else really holds that kind of animosity that a lot of people have towards Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, true. And I guess it's one of those very telling things about like an author.
I
Like
think. Sorry, I was just gonna say like I don't think. I think Rick is very up to speed on his Greek myths. I don't think he reads a lot of history
I certainly yeah, it doesn't feel that way.
because like he draws another historical comparison between figures a few pages later, which I see happening all the time, and it pisses me off every single time.
Which one is that?
Let's see. Hades' aura was affecting me, just as Ares had. The Lord of the Dead resembled pictures I'd seen of Adolf Hitler or Napoleon.
Yeah.
Now, Napoleon was not a good person. He
No.
was a warmonger who tried to like reinstitute slavery in the French Empire.
Uh-huh.
He was not Hitler.
No.
Like it's
No.
this really weird, enduring historical narrative that like the Napoleonic Wars were just World War II but with France, which is just if you know anything about either war, you know that's not true, and it's really weird to see it come up here,
A very ahistorical comparison.
and also to see him directly compare both of them to Osama bin Laden.
I mean, that's not really there's not like a direct comparison there. Like
Eh,
it's just like he looks Percy says he looks like the leader of a terrorist organization or something like that.
This was written in 2006. He means Osama.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I don't know. It's that those are all three very different looking people,
That
and
is also true.
and I guess this is confirmation to what we were talking about a few episodes ago that Hitler was a demigod.
Wait, is it? Oh no!
I mean,
Oh,
if he looks like
you
if he
you're
looks
so
like
right.
Hitler, this is
I didn't even pick up on that because I was so busy being frustrated about the like historical comparison. But you're right that it really is the implication here.
yeah, and I don't really like in stories when Hades is like the big evil guy. Like he's just another god, really. He's not more evil than any of the other ones or anything.
Well,
So
that's even like in this chapter. So yeah, you're right. That's really weird.
yeah, because there's like it's interesting because like Hades is like I'm not sure what it I guess okay, I just had a mild like brain thought about what it could be. Maybe it's like
Okay.
Hades like has the same aura as these people because they're people who like cause a lot of death or something.
Well, that's what I read it as the first time, but I really am like thinking emoji at the thing you said, and I think you might be onto something, to
Yeah,
be honest.
and I mean I'm certain that I am also correct because it's just it's terrifying and
Considering the other like World War II lore that we've gotten in this book, I think you're right.
yeah, unfortunately. And the I don't know because I think when you compare a character like this guy's like a terrorist leader or like Hitler, like that's the like you're never going to be able to look at that character and be like, okay, this guy's cool. I don't know. So I guess Hades is like the evil guy in the series now. I don't know.
I guess so.
Even though the this chapter also kind of directly like implicitly compares him to just being basically the same as every other god.
Well, I was gonna say that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about his like portrayal in this chapter is it's almost like an inversion of what we get with Mr. D at Camp Half-Blood. And it kind of paints them all in the same light by doing that.
Yeah, he's just another arrogant god convinced of his rightness, basically.
Well, it's also yeah. He's really conceited, absolutely convinced that he's correct, and I really like the idea that like they go in and see this huge, like regal looking. Like I think Percy even says this is the first time he's seen a god that looks like a god,
Yeah, he's 10 foot tall and like horrifying.
and then he starts shouting about his expenses and his commute.
It's there's so much good humor in this scene. Like
Yes,
like Percy just like has like a brain like moment for a minute there, and like while they're arguing, he's like, "Oh, by the way, Charon wants a pay raise," and Hades is like, don't get me started on Charon." It's really good.
and like Percy wondering if people's like faces are stitched into Hades' underwear. I mean, it's the same kind of tone as like in the 2020 video game Hades, where like Hades keeps setting fire to his capes, and then later on you go into his room and find a cupboard full of capes.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
Which is why it's so weird to me that like he's just like put in this like explicit box of like the evil god.
yeah, it's like, oh, this guy's actually not that different to the other gods, and is also kind of a petulant ass. But also, he might be Hitler's dad.
Yeah, it's weird. Let's talk a little bit about the Santa Monica part.
The initial description of Santa Monica Beach is like I thought this kind of built on the theme that you were talking about like a few weeks ago regarding the theme of the book seems to be like, keep in touch with reality, don't just get distracted by your laptop or your phone or whatever. And I think the way that the beach is described as like, oh, it's exactly like on TV, except way dirtier and with more pollution, kind of plays into that theme of like having to like examine reality for yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like weirdly excellent like this is a pretty well written book, but the prose in Santa Monica is like weirdly excellent, like noticeably so.
Oh, definitely. Like, just it evokes such a strong image of what it looks like with, like, again, characteristically, I have to call it now, like just really sparse, well executed writing.
Yeah, I don't have any idea what Santa Monica Beach looks like, but I could just like envision it in my head while I was reading. It's
I mean, I was just kind of envisioning the beach from Grand Theft Auto 5 because it's the same thing, but yeah, I get what you mean.
okay, gamer.
Don't call me that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
I'll forgive you this once, but don't do it again. Anyway, let's talk about Hades some more, the video game. Uh, I do want to
I
point out,
also. Oh, sorry. Go.
I was gonna make a joke, so you go first.
I was just gonna say, there's a line in here about like Percy's talking about how different this beach is from Montauk, and like how far away it seems to him now. And it's just like a really nice little nod to how far he's come, both in terms of distance and as a character since then.
Yeah, he's made it to the other side of the continent, and like,
Hmm.
as a changed boy.
Yeah,
Like,
he has a dog shark now.
yeah, oh my gosh, the shark is so wonderful. He pets it, and it's perfectly smooth, and it's like, I don't know. I think this is really important because people need to realize that sharks are perfectly smooth to the touch and you can pet them like a dog.
Everyone should do this. Just
Everyone
go
should do
out straight
this.
into the ocean and try and touch the shark.
Please do. And I guess a little bit with what you're talking about like the themes and stuff. We get like stuff like the pollution in the river Styx. There's
Yeah,
there's like an environmentalist theme to this book, kind of, or maybe not like a theme even, but like at least
yeah.
a
It's not something that the plot really gets into, but it's definitely like it sure does keep showing up.
yeah, it's a consistent element of it.
Mhm.
The
It's a motif.
it's a bit of a leitmotif. Um, I was wondering if because the like the cover to the Interest of the the underworld, um, is a recording studio.
Mhm.
Was very funny. Dead on Arrival recording studio, very good. But
Wait, I thought it was Dead or Alive, and I was like, should he not get sued for putting the beach volleyball thing in his book?
I don't think that's. I think DOA usually means Dead on Arrival. I
Yeah,
could
I think
be,
your thing is correct. Actually, my
which
thing is
is
dumb and bad.
I mean, it's not dumb. It's just very funny, and I guess like you said about me earlier, it's very indicative of your brain.
Hey, I mean, yeah.
So is this commentary like on like media, the music industry, it's like draining talent dry? Like
I
it's media? I don't know. Like is there like a joke here like beyond just the name of it being a recording studio?
Yeah, because like the other places where we found monsters that have set up shop, or like Greek heroes and stuff, is like it's been places that are directly relevant to like how that creature works. It's like Medusa has a garden full of statues, and Krusty has, he tries to kill people with hospitality, so he has a shop full of beds. But I'm not sure how a recording studio is directly relevant to like the underworld.
I have to assume it's like some kind of like joke about like the industry. I don't know. I don't know if Rick Riordan has any like experience with the music industry or whatever, but like
Rick hates music and never listens to it, which is why he created Percy Jackson the musical, so that he had music he could listen to.
I've been dreading us talking about Percy Jackson the musical for so long. Let's just
We're gonna have to cover it, and I'm terrified.
I hope it's really good. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, I'm
Everyone
sure that
makes
lots of hard work went into it regardless, covering our
yeah.
bases.
Okay, I have to say this. It's another curse thing and I'm sorry, but
Is
like
it the Charon as a Tumblr Dom?
I was gonna say that if God, I hate that. I was I was gonna say that if this book came out like in like 2014, Charon would have been like Tumblr's blonde British whitewashed soft boy.
Fuck, I hate that, and you're so right.
He would be like like the Cecil from Welcome to Night Vale if this book came out in
There
that
would
era.
be so many animatics of him singing that song from the Lorax.
Oh God. And like he sounds like an attractive gentleman and all. So I guess it's like it's fine.
He
But
wears a fine suit and insists that people call him Sir. He is a Tumblr daddy doll.
oh God. I don't want to think about it.
Well, I don't want to think about the thing you said.
Let's both agree to never discuss Charon again.
That sounds good.
Okay, so Charon's lobby. What did you think of this scene?
I really like the scene where, like, Grover and Annabeth are just like talking to Percy and encouraging him and saying, "Yeah, we'll get through this whole thing together." I think it's just a really good illustration of how close they've gotten as friends. It's just really sweet.
Yeah, I agree. Hmm. It's just really nice how their relationship is developed, and because they like Annabeth was like kind of a jerk at first, or like to Percy at least, at
Hmm.
first, right? And
Yeah,
Grover was just goofy boy, and now they're
yeah,
like a tight knit group, and this like pays off really well too in the like the Hades chamber scene.
exactly. Yeah,
I don't know. I was like my heart was there when Annabeth and Grover were like sacrifice us, you know. It's like the big ultimate choice of the book, and it's so effective because of like how well drawn and consistently his emotional state has been throughout like the whole thing.
absolutely. Yeah, like you like understand why he can't do this, and you also understand why he feels absolutely terrible for doing it.
Absolutely. I it's really good. This everyone, good book.
Good book. Also, I do want to quickly. I don't know if I want to issue a correction. I just want to query something you said,
Huh.
which is you said that Charon would be like Tumblr's whitewashed boyfriend,
Uh-huh.
and I can't tell if you just meant like, oh, because he's pale, or if it's because the book like specifically mentions that he's black, but everyone would definitely draw him as white.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I meant.
just checking.
He is the character who everybody's eyes would like you know, accidentally like drift over that part, you know.
How could that possibly have happened?
I wonder.
Anyway, I'm
uh,
sorry.
no, it's good to clarify. I feel like one of the big things that I wanted to talk about today
Hmm.
was the descriptions of like the different regions of the afterlife.
These are so good. I think like definitely like the best and most evocative one to my mind is the one of Asphodel. And I'm just going to read it.
Okay.
Imagine the largest concert crowd you've ever seen, a football field packed with 1 million fans. Now imagine a field 1 million times that big, packed with people, and imagine the electricity has gone out, and there is no noise, no light, no beach ball bouncing across the crowd. Something tragic has happened backstage. Whispering masses of people are just milling around in the shadows, waiting for a concert that will never start.
This is so good.
That's
Like
just like that's gorgeous prose.
it is, and it's building so effectively on like the very horrific tone that was set up in the lobby.
Hmm.
Um, because like, and the entire trip to the underworld is just like terror is kind of terrifying, and like
Yeah,
sort of different modes of horror. And this specific one is it's like I read every sentence of it and I'm like, yeah, exactly, perfectly, yes. I don't know.
this had me thinking about the Oracle again and remembering. Oh yeah, Rick's like actually really good at this horror shit.
Yeah, I don't know if he's ever written a horror book, but if he has, I would be very interested in reading it.
Hell yeah.
I don't know if this is unfair. I feel like
Hmm.
it's very telling of, I guess, sort of the authorial worldview. And this is a pretty common point of view on the world because we get the idea that like most everybody who has ever died is an asphodel, which is where just like if you didn't do
Yeah.
anything in life at all, you go there.
Hmm.
And then like the next most amount of people are like in the fields of punishment.
Hmm.
And then you have very few people in Elysium for like the best of the best. And then like almost no people in the Isles of Blessed for like the people who were like reborn 3 times and managed to achieve Elysium 3 times.
Yeah.
I think this is like a cynical worldview, right?
I don't know if it's going too far to say that it's a kind of a great man theory worldview,
A little bit.
where it's like if you're Gandhi, you get into Elysium. If you did anything less than that, fuck you. You live in Asphodel now.
Yeah, and like I guess one can only hope that Gandhi is like in the fields of punishment, but like, who knows? I don't know. I'm not like opposed. I don't know how based this is in like Greek myth or anything. Like I don't know if there's like a thing in there that's saying like, like lo, and I am Homer, and I am saying that most everybody went to Asphodel, blah 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 blah. And, like most people suck, and like I don't know. I don't know if there's any like
Most people just spend their lives vibing.
yeah, and like I don't know. I'm sure there are people listening who are like, oh, whatever. Like this is right. People do just like do nothing with their life. I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose you could. I'm just thinking about this now. You could possibly take a more sympathetic read of it, which is that like Rick has spent a lot of this book like highlighting problems like environmentalism and like weird, cynical media stuff with like DOA studios and the news media persecuting Percy,
Yeah.
and like highlighting these issues and then saying, "Well, hey reader, you should aspire to do good in your life."
I hadn't thought of that, but that's really true. I think because as like an extension of the theme that people need to care about things, right?
Hmm.
That like we get I think that backs up some of like why the I guess like explicit like hey there's a lot of pollution and it's killing gods out there like a lot of that stuff isn't like too intrusive because it kind of fits with what the book is saying the whole time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's interesting. That's a good point of view to take on the question. Like I think that this is a book for kids again. So like
Yeah.
you want kids to be like I want to go out and do something great with my life. Like that's a good message. Like you want people to want to help the world.
Yeah. Exactly. Or it's Great Man Theory and it sucks. One of these things is true.
Yeah, it's one of these things. I have enough room in my heart currently to accept a more optimistic idea, but I guess we'll see
Yeah.
as the series
I feel
progresses.
like Rick's earned the benefit of the doubt for now.
Yeah. Okay. I need to talk. Let's talk about the moment, like the big moment in this chapter, in these chapters.
Which one? There's several.
Let's talk about the Hades scene.
Okay.
I just want to say first off, I knew it. I knew that Ares wasn't trustworthy from the moment he stepped on the scene. And I think that like in that very first episode where I was like, Ares probably wants to expand his like war or whatever, or like in like
Yeah, you
episode
did
2 or
predict
whatever.
this, like almost exactly.
I and I don't want to be like I just want to give myself a pat on the back. And
You deserve it
thank
because
you.
I did the opposite thing, read this chapter, and completely missed that it was a an Ares villain reveal.
What did you think it was?
Okay, so based on what I remember of this book, what I thought was going on was that Kronos is in Tartarus, and he's been the one pulling the strings on like everything. And
Mm.
when the trio went down there, when Grover got pulled down there by his shoes, Kronos magically slipped the lightning bolt into Percy's rucksack to fuck with him, basically.
I see, I see. And
It's a harrowing scene with like more really like great description and also like a really clever resolution to like an arc that's gone through the whole book.
yeah, and I guess let's give you a pat on the back too for saying not to trust those shoes.
Thank you. I mean, for different reasons than I said not to trust them.
I mean, who knows? Who knows what the truth is in this wild world of ours?
I mean, I thought the plan was to just fly Percy 500 feet in the air and then strike him repeatedly with lightning.
That
But I guess he'd need to be holding like a metal cable all the way up. Otherwise, the
true.
lightning wouldn't be attracted to it.
Well, I don't know. I feel like if Zeus was like he just saw that he was really high up in the air, he could just like do a good toss of that.
He could just like hit him with like golf ball sized hailstones until he like died of internal bleeding.
That's horrifying, but you're right. I guess since we're talking about like the big concepts at play in these chapters, let's talk about the biggest concept of all, Cerberus.
The biggest boy.
We love this boy. We get
I love this.
yeah, because Yeah, because we see Cerberus and he's like this big dog and he's so scary. But and then like Percy just like tries to like play with him and Cerberus has no time for it.
Hmm.
And then Annabeth is like, get out of my way. I've got this. And just like is she's playing with the dog and it's so nice.
Love that. I love that. Like my dog will do this to me also. Like if I try to play with him with a toy that he doesn't want, he will just sit and stare at me. And then as soon as I pick up one that he does want, he's immediately ready to play.
Yeah, that's the dog experience for sure.
Hey, the bit where Cerberus is like sad that Annabeth left did destroy me emotionally.
Yeah, I don't want Big Dog to be sad ever.
Yeah,
I
someone
want
play with the big dog.
please, Hades, you are 10 foot you are 10 feet tall. You there is nothing stopping you from going and playing with this doggy.
So we've talked about the very blessed Cerberus content, and now I'd like to bring us to a very cursed thought.
Yeah?
Is this a deliberate Harry Potter reference?
Uh,
I'm just. I hate that I'm right about this, but like
you're,
the trio are facing as their first obstacle to getting to like the climax of the book a big three-headed dog. And listen, I know that the dog in Harry Potter was inspired by Cerberus, but I'm saying
yeah,
that like narratively, I feel like this
yeah,
decision was
uh-huh,
inspired by Harry Potter.
yeah, uh-huh. God, I hate talking about
I'm not
No, I
happy
mean,
about it.
you're right, but I just hate to hear it. And this was a better encounter than the one of Fluffy. Like,
I mean, yes.
like, okay, sing the song, put the dog to sleep, whatever.
Well, it's just the dog tries to kill them, and then the dog is asleep. At no point do they play with the dog,
Yeah,
and in fact,
exactly.
they admonish Hagrid for having the dog, which is incorrect.
It's absolute poppycock, as the British would say,
J.K.
because
Rowling hates animals. Rick Riordan likes animals, and is therefore, in that respect and many others, the superior author.
based in Rick pilled.
Yes, based
That's
in
the
Cerberus pilled.
that's the name of our new podcast, based in Rick pilled. It's the exact same podcast except for like Gamergate, far right. I don't know.
No, we talk about that shit so much on here already.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. I like to be able to say like based and blank pilled without having to think of the connotations.
It's true.
My friend, you are based and Jane pilled.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the okay. And the other big concept at play here, we learned that
Okay.
like we see a preacher, like an evil preacher who stole money from the church and like
I love this bit
sickened
so
him.
much.
Yeah, we see him like being tortured in hell or in the fields of punishment. And Percy's like, but wait, he's a Christian, right? So why is he in the underworld? And Annabeth is like, or Grover or someone is like, well, he's seeing something else probably.
Grover actually, it's Grover that says that, and he has a very funny line where he's like, humans are very stubborn, I mean, persistent that way.
Yeah, it's good. I it's a funny idea, like the idea that like everybody goes to the exact same place, but like they just see it differently depending on like how like their worldview was and they were alive. That's cool, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah.
I we did talk about like the idea that like does the Christian God exist or whatever.
Does the Christian God exist? Is Jesus a demigod? These are all questions that Rick needs to answer.
Yeah, and we talked about that a little bit earlier in like one of the earlier episodes. But like I wonder like would the big cloud man, not Zeus,
The other one.
the other one, would he be like or I've got like I'm cool with this Greek stuff going on. Like
I
I
want
don't know.
this series to end with Percy killing the Christian god.
Same, and that's all I can ask for.
The sentence, he died in a police chase when his Lamborghini for the Lord went off a cliff, is the funniest thing I've ever read.
Oh god, there's so much funny stuff in these. I was like literally like laughing at points. Like it was just like really good.
Yeah, like it's really
Uh
impressive that this manages to hit like emotional gut punches and also just really funny interactions in the same few short chapters.
yeah, we get like a good emotional moment at Santa Monica too, because like we learn that like Poseidon like can't see Percy because that would be like against the rules basically.
Hmm.
But like the Naiad is basically like, does she say like your father cares about you basically?
Basically, he's not allowed to show favoritism to any mortal, especially his own kids. That doesn't mean that he doesn't care about you. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing, but that's the gist.
Yeah, and it feels like, I guess, I don't know, it feels like one of the first moments that like Percy has received, I guess, validation from that side. I mean, I guess the first time was when he fell into a river and didn't die. But like, and I
I
guess okay,
mean,
I guess when Poseidon acknowledged him as his kid, like that was also kind of that.
I don't know. I feel like that and him surviving when he falls into the river, you can kind of write those off as, well, Poseidon needs Percy to do this for him, or he's fucked as well.
Hmm.
But like, this is the first time we hear that, oh no, Poseidon may care about Percy as more than just a tool to use to avoid getting his head kicked in.
Yeah, and it's possible that this maybe this random naiad is just making that up to make Percy feel better or whatever. But like,
Hmm. I do remember that we meet Poseidon at the end of the book, so we'll see.
we'll see. I'm excited. I am okay. I'm very excited for the end of this. We end with like Hades being like, I'm gonna unleash the dead upon the world.
That's such a cool idea.
And then like they get back up to the beach, their pearls like send them back into the sea, and they see like that Los Angeles is just like on fire.
It's a really good like cliffhanger moment.
Yeah, and they're like, it's the day of the solstice. They have to get all the way back across the country to in one day, less than one day.
Hmm.
It's I am gripped. We just did 3 chapters this week. Did we mention that already? Because
Did
like,
did we only do three?
yeah,
Oh, okay. We didn't mention that because I didn't know.
yeah, we only. I mean, you also read only just 3 chapters, but
I read them a few days ago.
I understand. I understand. But like, we did that because there were only 6 chapters left in the book, so we wanted to
Hmm.
divide it evenly. So next time we'll be finishing Percy Jack. Well, next time we'll be finishing the Lightning Thief.
Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. You had it correct the first time.
I did not. I was gonna say Percy Jackson and the Olympians, but there are still four more books after this. So
No, let's just read the last few chapters from the last book.
yeah,
It'll be fine.
and Percy got a gun, and oh no.
His scar hadn't hurt in years, and all was well.
Oh jeez.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I don't mean to bring this curse on this blessed space.
Let's talk about our segment.
Uh, uh,
Percy Jackson isn't cishet. Evidence.
Percy thinks that a waterbed with lava lamps in it is like a cool and fashionable thing to own, and I think that level of like unabashed glory and tackiness is something you only find when you're not cishet.
Absolutely true. Uh, my evidence is that Percy finally receives like a gift and like some validation from his father, but it's in like a very roundabout way that still isn't direct.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's in an ambiguous way which could be taken back later.
Yeah. We live in a fun world.
We live in a society.
Everyone, we live in a
Percy is
society.
persecuted by the media.
It's media. Let's wrap it up now for real.
Let's do that.
You can find us at Unwise Girls Pod on Twitter.
No, it's the Twitter is just Unwise Girls. The Gmail is Unwise Girls Pod.
Thank you. And you can find me on Twitter at Swamp Duchess. And you finally have a Twitter too, right, Jane?
I finally got around to making a main just for this podcast,
Yeah.
and I've actually forgotten what the
You
I
can
almost said
find Jane
URL.
at I think Janie Shivers.
That sounds right.
If it's not right, I'm sure it'll be in like the description of our podcast Twitter.
Yeah,
You can also you can rate us if you want to, 5 stars preferably. But if you're nice, if you're mean, why are you listening? We're a nice podcast.
if you're mean to us, we can understand you listening to the first episode. But if you've gotten this far, you should probably just do something you enjoy.
Yeah, honestly. And you can look us up on Patreon at Unwise Girls, where we have, if you want to support the show, it would be really appreciated. We have a few, we have some costs, um, that it would be nice to get back.
Yeah. Wait, do we want to recommend some media or things we've been playing very quickly?
Okay, we do that sometimes.
We
Sure.
do that when we remember to.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is I've already mentioned it earlier, but I've been like rewatching all of The Expanse, and that's such a good show. I love the spaceships and the way that they go burr.
I spaceships are very funny. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
My recommendation is to read
The Expanse.
no.
Oh,
No. Funny Janie say a wrong thing. My recommendation is to read An Easy Introduction to Love Triangles to pass the exam. It's a Yuri manga by Kano. Um, it's like a poly Yuri manga, so it's about 3 girls whose relationships are developing together. It's really nice. It's completed. It's not too long, so you can just read it all. Uh, Maybe buy some of it. It's very good. Check it out.
that sounds really cute.
Yeah. And as we always say, no, wait.
And as we say every week,
See you next week, Camp Half-Blood.
see you next week, Camp Half-Blood.